Hello everyone, my name is Aditya Rachi Gohil, and today on the fourth day of our presentation, my topic is archetypal imagery and the structural unity of One Piece, a Frygian and analysis of the Dress Rosa arc. Here is my presentation details and academic details. Here is the table of content. Here is my research question: is how does the Dress Rosa arc of the One Piece utilize Northrop Frye's archetypal structures, specifically seasonal mythic modes, character taxonomy, and the symbolic imagery to achieve structural unity? And how does this framework elevate the cultural concept of nakama to the anagogic representation of the ideal human community? Hypothesis: the Dressrosa arc of One Piece follows the Northrop Frye's archetypal patterns of seasonal cycle, character types, and the symbolic imagery, which together gives the arc its structural unity and elevate the concept of nakama to the universal human ideal. Here is the introduction. The anime series One Piece by Ichiro Oda has generated enormous scholarly interest in recent years, which researchers examining it through the lens as a varied as a reception theory, moral philosophy, and the cultural linguistics. The anime, one type of literature mostly created in Japan. Here I am going to present my view on the archetypal criticism in One Piece, and why I am choosing this topic because in India it is not that much discussed. That's why I have chosen this topic. So the Frye's archetypal criticism, the theoretical foundation. Northrop Frye proposed that the entire body of literature forms a self-contained, self-referencing universe of recurring archetypes. Unlike Jungian criticism, which traces symbolic patterns back to the collective unconscious of the individual psyche, Frye's system remains strictly within the literary universe itself. As the IBSCO research status entry on archetypal criticism explains for Fryer, archetypes do not refer to anything outside literature but to a large unified category within the literature itself. It represents that the literature itself has its own meaning and it describes its own self. Here is the Dressrosa arc as a mythic structure. Dressrosa present on its surface a political thriller. The tyrannical Don Quixote Doflamingo rules a kingdom through the deception, memory, manipulation, and the exploitation. Beneath this surface, however, the arc deploys a remarkably complete mythical architecture. Fryer identified four fundamental mythic modes in the Western literature, each corresponding a phase of the scholar and the seasonal cycle. In the Dressrosa arc, there is a mention of all four seasons. That's why I have chosen this topic. That in Dressrosa, all the things, the summer, the autumn, the spring, and the winter, all are discussed in Dressrosa arc. The character archetypes in the Dressrosa. One of Fryer's most enduring contribution is his taxonomy of recurring character types that populate the mythic landscape. In Dressrosa, these archetypes appear with the remarkable clarity. The tyrant, villain, shadow archetype. Doflamingo is the classical Frygian antagonist of the tragic to romance transition. The figure who has wrongfully seized power and must be overthrown for the natural order to be restored. In each and every literature, there is a one protagonist and there is a one antagonist. In this Dressrosa arc, there is antagonist is named Doflamingo, which is a very tyrannical ruler who is a tyrant or who kills people and force them to do the work. So the character archetypes in Dressrosa, the supplement and the people, the citizens of Dressrosa turn to toys, stripped of identity, enslaved, represent what Fryer called the pharmakos, the scapegoat, figure whose suffering drives the mythic action towards resolution. This liberation at the arc conclusion enacts the romance archetype's central moment from the bondage to freedom, from winter to spring. Here in the starting, the it is very chaotic. Dressrosa, in the starting of Dressrosa, it was very much chaotic, and there are the people who are suffering because of the tyrant king. And when the this arc is going on, in the end there is a when concluding arc is happening, that there is a spring, because there is a revolution, or the antagonist is defeated by our protagonist named Luffy. Seasonal and mythical cycles. Prior most systematic achievements in anatomy of criticism was the mapping of literature onto the natural cycle. We Francis study of literature archetypes provide a helpful summary of this schema. Nothing that Frye linked the four major literary genres to a solar cycle, seasonal cycle, and human life cycle, with romance corresponding to the summer, and the triumph tragedy to autumn, and the fall of hero, and the satire to the triumph of dark power. Dressrosa enact all four phases squintly within the single arc, demonstrating the precisely the kind of mythic comprehensiveness prior associated with the greatest literary work. Here we can see that the Dressrosa arc has contained, or it has all four of that seasons. That it has summer, autumn, and winter, and spring also. This all four cycle of weather is discussed in the Dressrosa arc. The symbolic imagery and the structural unity. Frye placed great emphasis on the recurring image through which archetypes manifest. He identified five primary categories of archetype imagery in Western literature: the divine world, the human world, the animal world, the planet world, and the mineral world. Dressrosa deploy all five in the way that reinforce its structural unity. The minorical and constructed world. Doflamingo birdcage, a structure of razor sharp strings slowly contra- uh, contracting around the island. It's among the powerful pieces of archetypal imagery in the arc. As a constructed cage, it represents the demonic parody of the city of kingdom. Instead of protecting its inhabitants, it traps and deploys them. This is precisely the Phrygian imagery of demonic world and the parody of the divine city, built not for human flourishing but for tyrannical control. Here we can see that what has described in the Flamingo's arc. That here we can see the archetypal criticism that describe the demonical world in the One Piece, the symbolical imagery and the structural unity, the animal and natural world, the gladiator arena and the colosseum, and the diverse race of the One Piece world. Fishermen, dwarves, giants echoes the archetypal imagery of a world where nature is distorted by tyrant. The hero's journey as a mythical grammar, while prior system is broader than the Campbell monomath, and the true framework and the deeply complementary Campbell. The 17 step hero's journey, as the Vijaya Kushma demonstrates in his analysis of One Piece, maps closely onto the Earth Blue Saga, East Blue Saga narratives Grameen. Prior's anagonic phase as the nakama structure. Prior highest category of symbolic meaning, the anagogic phase in the where individual symbols openly onwards towards the total human condition. At this level, work does not merely tell a story but participates in the total ritual and the total dream of humanity. Structural unity and Phrygian verdict. The arc moved through all four seasonal phase, from the ironical winter of Doflamingo's operation through the tragical middle of the sacrifice and the defeat of romantic dawns of liberation. Conclusion: the Dressrosa arc of the One Piece stands as a structurally unified mythic narrative, and the fully proves our hypothesis. Moving through all four of the prior seasonal phases, from the ironical winter of Doflamingo's corrupted kingdom to the romantic spring of liberation, while the populating its story with the complete archetypal characters, including Luffy as a Iron Hero and Doflamingo as a Elzon, False King, and the toy slaves as the Pharmacos community, and deploying the powerful demonic imagery through the birdcage and the Colosseum, grammar that Frye mapped across the of all human literature. Here is the infographics of my presentation. Here in the infographics, you can see the all four seasons. In the and in the under the there are three seasons in the our three seasons are here. Here is my references, and thank you.
Hello Aditya. So my question is, how does the narrative of the Dress Rosa arc map onto Frye's seasonal cycles of the literary genres?
Thank you for your question, Jansi. So the in the Dressrosa arc, the winter phase, ironic and satire. The arc begins in the world of perverted order and the demonic parody, whereas the citizens are turned into toys and a tyrant ruler through the deception. Autumn phase, tragedy. The middle of the arc involves the fall of a hero, the great sacrifice as an alliance is tested, and the full scale of Doflamingo's operation is revealed. And the third, spring and summer phase, romance. The narrative conclude with the hero victory over the force of the winter, the dismantling of the birdcage, and the restoration of the citizens' memory, and the symbolize the renewal of the natural order. You can see it in my infographic too. There I have combined two seasons together, because in the end the two seasons represent each other. Thank you. Is there any other question?
So, Aditya, my question is, doesn't applying Frye's Western framework to nakama risk erasing its unequally Japanese culture identity?
So, first I will clarify that nakama is a style of writing in Japan. So, the Frye himself argued that the archetypals are trans culture, not Western exclusive. Applying his framework to nakama doesn't erase its Japanese identity. It's actually validates is provide that the culturally specific concept can simultaneously carry universal mythic response. Thank you.